I'm just lying to everyone.
You have to stop, Lola. It's my turn.
Now Greta will finish my sentence.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I feel like nobody else is really competing with me for that title, so I guess it won by default. But I'm very happy about it. I love screwball comedies. Well, I mean, we spend a long time on the script, and we don't let the actors change any words, and it's very precise. And I mean, but we really keep the writing process and the acting process separate. So, I mean, because we don't change anything and because we don't do improv, really, once the script is the script, then when I'm on set, I'm free to be an actor without the encumbrance of thinking about the writing. So, in a way, I try to come at it as if I didn't write it. Because as a writer, you know things about the logic of why things are in there that actually doesn't help you as an actor. Like, when you're writing it, you say, like, well, we need to know this piece of information, so let's write this line this way, but that can't possibly be your reason as an actor to say anything. So in some ways, it feels like it's a completely separate thing away from writing it, but it's great fun to act. Well, for me, it really, like, the producing side of it, I'm incredibly involved with the, casting and the locations and the look of the film, and then afterwards with the editing and the music, but those are really like pre and post production things. And while we're actually shooting it, I am 100% an actor, and I think that's just the way I work best, because I don't like acting with a strong sense of what it looks like externally. I would hate watching playback of myself. I like feeling as if I'm a bit out of control, or there's something in me that's coming through that I don't have so much control over. That's where I find what's good. I think that's what works for me.
Like, don't bring
What was I most attached to? I mean, I really like her exercise instructor stuff. I've never been so. I had to actually do that when I did that scene, and I'm speaking into the microphone and saying inspirational things. It was so hard for me, and I felt I had to really turn off my natural inclination towards feeling embarrassed and just take charge in front of everyone and be very positive. And anyway, but I love that part of her, and I think I really love exercise instructors. They're really positive people, and they really have so much energy. And anyway, I like them. Yeah. Well, actually, what we were sort of going for, or we were thinking about, were the score. In terms of the score, it was really 80s movies. We were thinking about, like, the score of Risky Business, or After Hours, or Something Wild, that kind of synthy 80s emotional score. I mean, we were listening to, like, the soundtrack to Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which has an amazing soundtrack, by the way. Really kind of makes you cry. And anyway, Dean Wareham and Britta Phillips did all of the score, and they did a beautiful job, because we didn't want it to feel too much like we were doing a thing. We wanted it to feel natural to the world, but also referencing these other movies. If somebody stole my cat, I mean, I think the question of whether those cats are actually stolen, I don't know. That might be one of the ones
Would you be furious?
I mean, I'd probably be pretty angry. I don't have cats, but if somebody stole my cat, sure. I mean, who steals your cat? That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, one of the nice things about being an actor is that you get to be on so many different sets, and you get to see so many different directors and the way they work. And it's funny when you realize directors are only ever on their own set. They don't know how anybody else does it, because they only really do their own movies. And so I feel like working with Noah, but also the other directors I've gotten to work with, I feel like I have a good sense of the different ways you can go about making a film. And that being said, I'll discover what I'm like and what I need and what I'm doing. But I think the at least in the reason to make the movie is for me also that the script is something I want to shoot. So it starts with the writing.
What can you tell us about Lady Bird? What's it about? What are you going for?
I will decline that question. I mean, I know what it is about, but I gotta make it, you guys. It didn't really birth that idea, but I've always I felt very grateful that I'm really from a place, and I'm really my family is still there, my brother's still there, a lot of my friends are there, and I think one of the things that cinema is uniquely great at is capturing places, and I love New York and I love making films there, but I also feel like if you're lucky enough to be from a specific place, you should try to capture something that feels real and specific to you, because I think that's how you get a sense of what is this country we live in all these different places. And I mean I love regionalism in fiction and in cinema and in theater, and I think it's just exciting to see different places illuminated through work. And being from Sacramento, one of my favorite writers Joan Didion, and she's from Sacramento, and she wrote about Sacramento, and in any case, it's I think Sacramento needs an opus.
Right, I love that.
It just sounded resonant to me.
Oh.
Yeah, well, Brooke just felt instantly like her name. There was something about like, it was a name it felt 80s to me somehow. I don't know how, like, kind of natural, like, you know, Brooke, and she called her Meadow in the script, in the story she writes. But yeah, I like giving people full names too, because, you know, in high school, like, you never called anyone like Greg. It's Greg Ruiz. Like, you know a full name. It's not, you don't ever just have a first name of like Brooke Cardenas, Tracy Fishko. These are names. And I think I've always felt that sometimes in movies, it's always improbable to me that you never really know what their full name is. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you're like, well, that's not true.
Do you think that helps the audience connect with the character a little more?
It would help me. So there's this great, it's maybe not as great as some of them, but there's this Cary Grant movie, which I'm going to forget the name of, but he keeps saying this man's name the whole time. He's like, Mr. Shunderson, and he says it about 100 times, and I was like, it's so nice that we know Mr. Shunderson is his full name. Yeah, well, I really like working that way, for a variety of reasons, but I like the freedom that it affords us in terms of we can shoot many more days, and that's a big part of it, because so often with indies you're shooting, it's like you're squeezing a regular-sized movie into 19 days, and we shot this over 60 days, so we really gave ourselves the freedom to say, you know, if a scene's not working, we can go back and come back to it the next day, and we didn't have to give ourselves that pressure of like moving on, and I think a lot of that is the streamlining of the crew. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is also the way filmmaking has transformed due to technology that allows that to be possible. Am I a Brooke? Oh no, I mean, I'm sort of if I'm anyone, I'm Tracy. I made Lola wear things I wore at 18 in the movie. So I put her that like giant blazer, that was mine. It was even bigger. We had to like tailor it down to fit her, and I wore a lot of berets. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, I wanted to be a writer, and I moved to New York, and it was like Tracy. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be part of a club where if you got in, they put a pie in your face. That's real. That happens. Great. Yeah. Yeah, it's sort of it's based on people I think both Noah and I have known, and like little pieces of different people. It's not based on one person. We kind of took all these parts and made her her own thing. But yeah, she's got a lot of different people in her. Yeah, you know, I mean, as ridiculous as that speech Brooke gives sounds, is like, and then when I have kids, they'll come, and you're like, what are you even talking about? Like, really, like, taking a left turn somewhere, and then, I don't even, her, like, dive for lobster, I don't know what she's talking about, but yes, I do think, I mean, not to give this, or overcomplicate her idea, but I do think, Brooke lives in this very stark world of kind of the winners and losers of capitalism, and it's this very stark thing of like, you get your money and you get out of the city and you like work and you cash out and then you leave and you get your big house and you do, and I think she's sort of looking for like a third path, for a way that she could make something that was that didn't cause anyone to feel like a loser or a winner necessarily, but was like a place everyone could be. And I think even though she's sort of crazy and weird about the way she goes about it, I felt very connected to what she was talking about. And I mean, I have no desire to open a restaurant, but I certainly I'm a big believer in communal art and using art as a way not just to make a product that is sold to people, but to make an experience that is shared by the people who make it and then the people who see it. Have you been? Oh, sorry.
That was a little different than
Oh,
the
yeah.
other scenes.
That was one of the first scenes we wrote. In a way, we wanted it to be it is a standalone scene where something is turning for her, that things start going badly, because the woman says, I wish all bad things on you, and then everything falls apart after that, and that it's almost like a curse that comes through this. And also just this idea of, you know, in a normal interaction, if somebody came up to you and said you were a real dick to me in high school, you would say, oh my God, I'm sorry, I you know, and Brooke doesn't do that. She turns on this woman and she says, what's wrong with you? That you're paying attention to and it felt like it's part of what makes Brooke amazing, and it's also what makes her downfall. So it's sort of, I saw that scene as this shift in what happens to her, and I mean, I just love that scene. I love watching Rebecca Henderson act that scene, and Tracy scarf down hot dogs, and it's a moment where you see this side of Brooke where you suddenly are like, oh, she's formidable, which you also learn about Tracy, is that Tracy's got a real steely core as well. But I don't think most people aren't either or. They're both and they're both magnanimous and they're petty. They're kind and they're cruel. And I think too often we want our characters to exist in these very narrow parameters. And at the same time, like right before you see that scene, you know, Brooke shows a picture of her mom that we never see, but to Tracy, and you know, probably in high school her mom was dying, and she doesn't say that to that girl. Like my mom was dying, and I was mean to other people because I was in a lot of pain. I don't think she has the access to say that, but I think people are such a weird combination of stuff, and I feel like as much as I try to make movies where all of that can exist at once.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Have you been to a restaurant that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Freeman's in
I
New
want to
York
go to that.
cuts hair. They cut hair.
Not in the same place where they make it.
Thank you.
Bye, thanks.